am back yet again to bring you episode 19 of Kamen Rider Saber, Flame and Light, Sword and Sword, which is honestly a pretty generic title and doesn't match too much with today's episode. But anyway, we start off the episode with Yuri basically reiterating the dangers of what's going on, some stuff about Luna, so, just restating the mission statement for this part of the series so far. And it focuses a lot more on the source of logos, in all honesty, which I think is honestly a good thing, because we have a dynamic Yuri now, so I think it's a bit time to focus on the source of logos. And, well, Ryo and Tetsuo are basically being the most mature, because they're the oldest members. Ren's still being a high-headed idiot who really doesn't trust Toma at all, because he's not believing Caliber's words, which again makes sense because Ren was the one who was least closest to Toma in the original part of the series, and Rentaro is stuck in depressed mode, or brooding mode, which is really sad because he is normally the bright character, and I kind of miss that right now. But anyway, yeah. So, bulk of the episode is basically them going over the scenario, and basically Ryo and Tetsuo basically they want to trust Toma. They basically don't see anything that Toma has done as being truly wrong. They ultimately want to trust him because they have faith in him and want to basically see him out and figure out what exactly is truly going on. And, they're not 100% trustworthy of Southern Base. As did earlier, Ren is kind of focused, up his own ass, and Rentaro is super depressed. So, that's going on. Meanwhile, the Megiddo are actually doing something smart. They've basically gone around the entire city and basically attacked almost everyone who has, can see a Wonder World, has a connection to Wonder World, and stuck a book in them. So, they kept doing that, and it's a really kind of sinister, cool montage of just them jumping people and shoving books in their chest, which is really cool, and makes a lot of sense that they would be just going all for it. I don't know why these specific people aren't going nuts as Megiddo, as we saw with the Yeti, and even with the King Megiddo this week. It feels weird that they're just basically, they need to explain why they're not going nuts at the same time as everyone else, because a lot of people have disappeared. They mentioned that in the episode, that people are disappearing because they have books shoved in their chest, but we don't have a lot of rampaging Megiddo. And yeah, I know at this point, Megiddo is more Megid, but I'm just going to keep saying Megiddo. I've been saying it for 19 episodes, so I'm going to keep saying Megiddo. It just sounds cooler to me. Anyway, Storios takes the villain role this time around, and goes to find a random kid and shove a book in his chest and form the King Megiddo, or Osama Megiddo. The book title is Barefoot King, and I don't know the story for that one. Anyway, it's an interesting Megiddo. It's interesting Megiddo in the fact that it is not a strict fighter. The bulk of the fight is held between Storios and, Tetsuo when he shows up, not the Megiddo of the week. It's basically just there to cause the incident and really mostly is doing random shit and running away, which feels like the most effective strategy. Well, no, the more actual fighters delayed the actual fighter. No word on what the actual Osama Megiddo plans to do. One thing I do have a major complaint about this episode is the fact that the victim of the week, he just randomly, we see him earlier, and you think he might have a connection to Toma, but he just shows up at Toma's house randomly later, and doesn't have any connection to Toma at all, and just, read about him in a magazine and admired his model work, which, let's be honest, that model that's used as a principal set in the series is a really cool model, if you're into models and shit. But it feels really forced in order to make Toma scream his ass out about trying to save this kid later on, which we didn't really need it because Toma, he's a hero. He's the type of person to always scream his ass off about trying to save someone. He literally sees him for 5 seconds, not even 5 seconds, 5 minutes, like even less than in the actual runtime of the episode, and is immediately on board with trying to save this kid. Which, yeah, I get he would be, but it feels really forced for him to, run to try to save this kid and be all into it. I feel like this was meant to be a deeper connection between the two, but they maybe didn't want to do it so quickly after dealing with the Yeti Megado, who had a somewhat deeper connection to Toma, being his editor's boss, May's boss. So, obviously she would have a deeper connection. Also, one thing I find funny, Yuri pulls out another power. I haven't, there's a bit of a joke in the episode itself that they mentioned the Sword of Light's powers. I was like, yeah, Yuri has a lot of random ass powers. I mean, yeah, they kind of go back into the idea of light, but, in this case, he can erase people's memories of what happens to them when they're being transformed to Megado. We don't know if he can do that at all memories or specifically just Megado and sword-related memories. Basically, any memories related to Wonderworld. But he can do that with memories, and that's kind of hilarious. It reminds me of Superman 2, because it seems to come right the fuck out of nowhere. So, yeah. So, bulk of the fight is, this four-way fight, or more of a three-way fight, because, it's Tetsuo, Storios, Yuri, and Toma all there, as well as the Megado, who's, not much of a fighter, so he's basically on the sidelines, while Storios is like, yo, get out of here. Now, Storios does pull off a really fun technique. He does a whole shadow clone jutsu thing, where he, makes copies of himself. But it's just really fun to see. It's fun for the villains to whip out new powers, and they all kind of beat on Toma in a kind of fun fight. I mean, obviously not fun for Toma because he's losing and he's the hero. It's just fun to see Storios fight. Because, out of the three, he seems to be the most calm and collected compared to Zuos, who is basically a wild animal, and Legios, who, while has his moments, is not as clever as Storios, who seems to be the most calm and collected of the group. And obviously the leader. At least the one in charge so far. Anyway, so, this leads to, the King Megado getting away. And an interesting note, basically Tetsuo decides to test Toma in the only way he knows how to, by clashing swords, which brings up it's basically this old martial arts thing about, clashing with other people and fighting, figuring them out in a way that kind of makes sense for his character. He's the swordsmith. So, he's trying to figure out Toma the only way he knows how to with a fight. Just to make sure he can trust him and all that kind of stuff. Because he doesn't know if he can believe his words, so he'll listen to his sword, basically. Which, the fight doesn't have a definitive winner. Toma was losing the fight, which I don't even know how he was losing. He is King of Arthur, and basically Tetsuo just turned that back on his ass, and then he used Draconic Knight, and Tetsuo was able to still, at least push him back, which, how is the power scaling in this series? Because typically, again, this was Draconic Knight was able to beat, Caliber in his strongest form that we saw in the show so far, if, he might come back. So, you would think Draconic Knight could, beat the fuck out of everybody. At least in the Souls logos could beat the fuck out of everybody. Maybe not King Lion Senki, but beat everybody else, especially considering the fact that they needed King Lion Senki to deal with the whole pillar scenario. But apparently Tetsuo can still just push back Draconic Knight, Toma. It might be the fact that Toma's a bit distracted with everything going on, and a bit, muddled and all that kind of stuff. But it still feels weird for Tetsuo to be winning that easily. And the episode ends with Toma and friends, his current friends, May and Yuri, running off to deal with the Megado because it has apparently made yet another appearance. It's definitely the King Megado, because it's obviously it'll be interesting if it was just another Megado that they just happened to chance into. But yeah, it's just another random Megado. I mean, it's just the King Megado again, who just appears immediately afterwards and starts causing trouble again, and everyone heads off to deal with it. While Tetsuo stays behind and notes that he didn't hear any the the subs I saw said uh reverence, not reverence, reverb or something like that. I forget what the exact word was, but we didn't hear anything from Thomas Sword, which I don't know what that means in this context, because that could mean either something good or something bad in terms of, the context and if he's going to be Toma's ally or not. Like, it's meant to be a bit of a mystery to lead into next week's episode, which is going to be, Ren's big episode with Toma, which everyone's calling him out for, but I won't talk about that because that is kind of hilarious and context. No, but I will say this Askim's back, so that's pretty cool to see. Maybe maybe he might be the Megiddo that everyone's running off to deal with, considering, he did just bamf off at the end of after he just murdered Caliber. Yeah. An interesting note, Yuri mentions that, someone's obviously gathering a sword to unlock a great power. And we do get a shot of all the swords that we've known of so far, that we have so far, and 3 more swords. Now, obviously, this doesn't include the sword from the movie, the Phoenix sword or falchion. And it's, user. But we do get a shot of 3 extra swords. One potentially could be falchion, but considering the fact that the movie obviously takes place, if the movie's canon, which I suppose it should be canon, but if the movie is canon, obviously it takes place before Kento got iced, before Yuri showed up, and obviously Yuri would be aware of the fucking Phoenix King showing the fuck up. No, he's not the Phoenix King, he's fucking Kamen Rider Alpha just showing the fuck up. But yeah, he makes no note of it, meaning this probably isn't one of the swords or 3 extra swords that we have yet to see in the show. This means that we can expect up to at least 11 riders, not counting movie and special riders, which if we include movie and special riders, leads to 12, because we already have Falchion, and potentially a 13th with the next movie that's going to be coming out, like the after movie, which would bring us up to Ryuki's rider count of 13 riders. Potentially more if they do get a true crossover movie with 01, which is highly unlikely, if not outright impossible, because 01's having its after movie, which is already out. So yeah, we potentially could surpass Ryuki's rider count. But I do like the way they're doing it here a bit better than Ryuki. Like I talked about how I felt Ryuki's didn't use his cast 100% all the way, and when I talked about Ryuki, in fact, I think a lot of series don't use their cast 100% right. Like again, in this series, I've complained about May's lack of a role and how that basically was a recurring joke. How she really didn't do much of anything. Oh, also we do confirm that obviously the Megiddo don't have Sophia, because Tetsuo mentions Storios, getting Sophia back. He's like, oh, you don't have your guardian over that's the northern base, which might be a bad thing, considering the fact that Sophia's life kept the barrier that kept them out of northern base intact. So what would happen if she disappeared? Would they be able to get into northern base and steal whatever they need out of that thing? You'd think that would be Storios' thing afterwards. Like, oh, the Guardian is gone. Hey, see if you can bring it to that base up north, shall we? Just food for thought, especially considering that's a backdoor in Toma's house. Which, here's a question. Because that Tetsuo has to go out to find Toma, even though their base should be a backdoor into Toma's house, can they get into northern base anymore? Like, you think that, oh, you have to find Toma. Oh, don't worry, I can just use the back door that we have into his house / store. We still don't know where Toma sleeps. Is this the case, like, build where you sleep in your lab? Because, it's an underground cavern or something. We probably will never figure that out. But, yeah. It's interesting that they never seem to go back to northern base at all. Meaning they either can't get into northern base because they went to southern base, or there's something else going on here, or I just don't want to go back to northern base. Because, you think, hey, we have to go get Toma. It'd be easy to just, hey, hide out in northern base, wait for the right moment, open up the door that's obviously a portal to his back door, and then break all his shit / beat him while he's asleep, and then steal his sword. I'm bringing logical holes into the series, and I really shouldn't do that. Yeah, anyway. Overall, the episode is okay. There were good moments. The fight between Toma and Tetsuo was good, even if it did raise a ton of questions about power scaling in this show. I did like the stuff where Yuri. There's a bit of a joke where Yuri's basically reading a comic throughout the whole course of the episode, which it's the comic he's picked up once or twice in the previous few episodes he's shown up in, and I think it may or may not be going to inspire his potential upgraded form, which may or may not have been released in a leaked scan. I've seen it. I won't talk about it anymore because I don't know if it's legit or not. I kind of hope it's legit because I honestly do kind of like the look of it. But, we'll leave all that aside. So, yeah. Overall, okay episode. Could do better, could do worse. And I'm honestly looking more forward to next week, considering the fact that it looks like it might be a bit more of either a big drama episode or a big action episode. But considering what Saber is, a lot of episodes are big action episodes. And yeah, I wonder what Tetsuo's words will mean. Again, we're kind of in that middle point that in Saber was represented by the job battle royale. But we're dealing with a different arc in this story than 01's case. And with that said, yeah, I'll see you guys next time with episode 20, when that hits, hopefully next week if there are no delays. Till next time, everybody.